I, female 31, am currently engaged to my fiancé Caleb, male 34. We're planning on getting married soon, but his 13-year-old son got diagnosed with a medical condition that will require months of treatment. He will be receiving treatment next month. Caleb and I chose and agreed on a wedding date. I found out recently that he decided to change it. I was so confused, especially when I heard it from one of his friends. I asked him about it, and he said it was true he wanted to change the wedding date and gave those reasons. A. Because he wants to focus on his son and his recovery and give him enough time to get his health back. B. He wants his son to be at the wedding looking healthy and happy. C. Doesn't want his son exposed to a large crowd while recovering, so he thought the best decision was to put off plans for the wedding till months later. I felt upset and couldn't help but start arguing with him and objecting to this decision. He argued that I'm being selfish and short-sighted, and that I clearly don't care about his son like I say I do. I told him he was being unfair and treating me as if I'm happy with these unfortunate circumstances, although me and my family have been more than supportive. He told me that if what I'm saying is true, then I should be on the road with this decision. I thought that it was illogical because now I'll have to go look for another venue and make other arrangements because wedding reservations need strict timing and planning ahead of time. He snapped and said that clearly a wedding is more important to me than my stepson's health. But I disagreed and explained that his son can still attend while he's on treatment, but he was having none of it. We had a fight and he went out. His family think he's being reasonable and there is no need to rush, but I feel like my opinions and thoughts were stomped on and ignored because he knows I have a specific date in mind that is special to me. And if I agree to postpone, then I won't get the same date unless I wait another year. Am I in a wrong for my reaction? Did he present a valid argument? And now for some comments. Everybody sucks. His child is seriously sick and should be a priority. But just changing the date, telling people and not even telling you is also a jerk move. But OP, you are definitely more wrong. Everybody sucks. Him for not discussing with you first about changing the date, but, in my opinion, you are the bigger jerk. His son's health is more important than a wedding. If it's a specific date that's important to you, just wait another year. Everybody sucks. His son's health is more important than your wedding date. The fact that he changed it before discussing it with you is concerning. You have terrible communication. I'm engaged to my fiancé, Sam 41, and we're getting married soon. I will say that he was married before and had a 13-year-old son who passed away 4 years ago. Let me tell you, he's still pretty much grieving. Not judging him for that, but his grieving can and will cloud his thinking sometimes. We're currently in the wedding planning phase. He asked that we reserve that chair at the venue for his deceased son. I was dumbfounded when I heard this, but he said that he knows his son will be there for him spiritually and he'd like to reserve a seat for him out of respect and to make him feel included. I tried to be gentle because this seemed insane and told him we cannot do that because guests will be asking questions and will think he's mentally unstable. I asked him to let go of this idea, but he offered a compromise by leaving the last chair in the very back empty so no one would notice. I felt uneasy and asked him to just let it go, but he kept bringing it up, saying he gets a say since it's his wedding and his son was and will always be family. I had a fight with him telling him it's my wedding too, and I don't want people to laugh at us. He said I have nothing to lose if I say yes, and that I'm being selfish. I snapped and told him to get over himself, and he got quiet suddenly and stopped arguing, then shut down completely. I then heard him sob while he was smoking outside and refused to speak to me. They didn't even let me sit with him. He has been like this ever since the fight and has been avoiding me. I could have blown this out of proportion, but I thought his request will weird out many guests and make our wedding a laughingstock. Editing to add that I didn't think that such a thing was common. I admit that I should have handled the conversation better, but the guests I was referring to are my male cousins and they are terrible at making fun of everything and taking every opportunity to turn an event into a laughing stock. I can't keep them from attending because they are family, but at the same time, don't want to give them a chance to hurt Sam's feeling or make rude comments. I love Sam and sympathize with his struggle, but I feel like he's being dismissive of my feelings and thoughts. And now for some comments. You are in the wrong. A wedding is about both of you. He offered a compromise. You're putting your foot down. Why? What he wants is harmless and also really sweet. Quote, guests will be asking questions and will think he's mentally unstable. I don't want people to laugh at us. So, don't invite mean people to your wedding. I'm sorry about given how callous you're being. I'd be surprised if there even is a wedding now. You are in the wrong. Unequivocally a huge gaping one. He lost his child. You don't get over that. You made him sob over a chair. Think about that for a minute. The way you're approaching this is disgusting. You're the one that needs to get over yourself. If I were him, I would be calling the whole wedding off. The disrespect is unreal. You are right about his grief clouding his thinking sometimes. He must have been totally clouded over when he agreed to marry you. You come across as a very cold-hearted, self-obsessed person. You don't deserve him. You are in the wrong. I, 25 female, used to be friends with Manny, 24 male, for 15 years or so before he suddenly stopped speaking to me for a year and a half. He was ignoring my texts, calls, and so on. And I was worried about him, and I even spoke to their mother to see if they were okay. He was. I eventually took the hint and stopped reaching out despite being confused and hurt. I have abandonment issues that ties to my anxiety, so worrying about it was just too much for me. He eventually reached out to me and said the reason he stopped talking to me was because he couldn't find his stash after we hung out one day, so he assumed I stole it. I don't have a history of stealing, but okay. Then he saw meaning in a photo I replugged on Tumblr and assumed it was about him, though he couldn't tell me what post it was. He said he didn't want a confrontation, so he just stopped talking to me for a while. He told me that he eventually found his stash when he moved 6 months later, but was too afraid to say anything. After talking things through, he offered to still be friends, and I said I would have to think about it, and I did. I came to the conclusion that I didn't want him back in my life because I felt hurt that he would not only assume I stole from him, but then didn't even give me the chance to defend myself, fix what happened, or even tell me why he was upset. I told him this, and he understood but wanted to drop off an art piece he made that was inspired by our friendship. I told him I appreciated the offer, but I would rather not take it. He asked why, and I said I don't want a reminder of what we used to have in my home. I made peace with his absence months ago, and I feel the painting would just be salt in the wound. He got offended by that and told me that I was a jerk because it feels like I'm not really accepting his apology. I told him no again, and he kept pushing. Every few days I get a 10-minute segment where he calls over and over again, followed by a text every 5 to 10 minutes for a few hours asking if I'm over it yet. So eventually I told him, leave me alone, I don't want your stupid painting. He told our other friends, and they think that I'm the jerk because I didn't have to be so harsh and mean about it, and I was being petty by not just taking it. So am I in the wrong here? And now for some comments. No. You're not in the wrong. He cannot have his cake and eat it too. Can ditch you when he feels like it and then just randomly appear again and expect you to be okay with it. You did the right thing in not accepting the painting. He's giving off creepy vibes, so document all of these weird calls and texts. Actually, probably blocking him too would be a good idea. If the mutual friends you both have just automatically take his side without at least hearing your POV, they are probably not friends to hang on to either. Absolutely not in a wrong. And your friends are being very unfair in their assessment of the situation. He dropped you with no discussion or explanation for something you didn't even do. You're not at all obligated to accept his apology after such a hurtful act. He's the one that threw away a 15-year friendship. I wouldn't accept his apology either. Who's to say he won't dump you again the next time he loses something or takes imagined offense at a social media post? He's hurt you once, and no reasonable person would blame you for refusing to make yourself vulnerable to him again. Not in a wrong. He messed up and is looking for absolution, but you are not required to take his art. Mini update. I got a call at 3:30 in the morning from my mom in a dizzy thinking I was going to end my life. I'm not. Apparently he called her saying I sent him a goodbye message and he was worried so he wanted to swing by, so she gave him my address. He appeared on my doorstep like 15 minutes later, banging on my door demanding to be let in so he could hang the painting. He sounded drunk. I didn't answer the door and told him to leave or I would call the cops. I ended up having to call them. When the cops showed up, I answered and saw Manny here with two friends. One, Kimberly, equally drunk, and the other, Gavin, sober. I assume they drove. Both friends, not Manny, he was too busy yelling at a cop, ended up yelling obscenities at me. I guess when the cops pulled up, Gavin was peeing in the bushes by the sidewalk / my mailbox, so he was in handcuffs by the time I opened the door. They all ended up leaving in cruisers and Gavin's car is still in my driveway, which sucks. But now, I really feel like a jerk for causing all this drama over a painting. I have a friend, Kristen, who was mildly overweight, 200 pounds. She decided she was tired of it and went on an extreme diet to take the weight off. She went on a more 1,000 calorie a day diet, with frequent juice cleanses and fasting days. She lost 60 pounds in 3 months. She's since changed her entire lifestyle to be healthier and so far has not gained back a single pound in the last 2 months. Naturally, she's getting praised by everyone in her life. Her family, other friends, and even her doctor are praising her for this weight loss. She didn't eat healthy or get fat. She starved until she was a socially acceptable size. She honestly has an eating disorder, and all anyone can do is praise her and ask her advice on willpower. She's admitted to me that she used to handcuff herself to her bed on weekends so she wouldn't eat anything to have enough of a deficit. It's sick. But hey, she looks great in that dress. Sarcasm, of course. I told her that her cheerful acceptance of praise, money and dates is glorifying eating disorders, and she got mad at me and told me that I was just jealous of her hard work. Am I in a wrong here? And now for some comments. You are in a wrong. You said she is not maintaining that and has switched to a healthier diet. It happened. It's done, and she's not continuing it. So it's really none of your business. You're not approaching her out of concern. You're being the jerk about it because she's getting attention. You are in the wrong. You should be speaking to her about your concerns for her disorder, not lecturing her on how she's glorifying eating disorders. Your friend needs help and support. You are in the wrong, because this whole story feels like it's coming from a place of resentment rather than concern. You don't want to help her, you want her to go back to her old weight and see how hard it is to lose weight the right way, because otherwise she doesn't deserve the praise she's getting.